Welcome to Heart of the Guardians, the place where stories of humanity, faith, and courage come alive. If you believe that compassion can still change the world, then stay with us till the end of this story. Because what you're about to hear will remind you that even in the darkest corners of human cruelty, light can still shine through the heart of one man. It was a scorching afternoon in a small forgotten village, where dust carried the cries of the poor and hunger walked like a shadow. In the middle of that village square, a crowd had gathered, rough men, greedy faces, and trembling whispers. The air was thick with heat, sweat, and despair, and in the center of it all stood three young sisters, barefoot, frightened, and clutching one another like it was the only thing keeping them alive. Their father, a man with hollow eyes and trembling hands, was shouting to the crowd. His voice cracked between guilt and desperation. "They're good girls," he said, "hard-working, obedient, they can cook, clean, and farm. Just give me something. Anything. I need to feed my other children." No one could believe what they were hearing. A father auctioning his own daughters for survival. But poverty can crush a soul, and in his eyes, there was more sorrow than greed. Among the people watching was a traveler named Samuel. He had come from a nearby town to buy livestock, but what he saw made his heart freeze. Three girls, the oldest no more than 18, the youngest barely 12, standing with tears streaming down the cheeks while men whispered prices as if they were animals. Samuel clenched his fists, his chest tightened with anger, but beneath that anger was sorrow. He had seen poverty before, but this was something different. This was desperation stripped of all humanity. He stepped forward through the crowd, his boots crushing the dust, his voice steady but filled with power. "How much?" he said. The crowd fell silent. The father turned, confused. "What?" I asked. Samuel repeated. "How much do you need to stop this madness?" The father looked down. "Enough for food and medicine," he murmured. "We have nothing left." Samuel reached into his coat, pulled out a pouch heavy with coins, and threw it at the man's feet. The metallic clatter echoed in the silence. "Take it," he said. "Take it and go home. But these girls, they're coming with me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some sneered, thinking Samuel had darker intentions. Others whispered that perhaps God himself had sent him. But Samuel didn't care what they thought. He took off his cloak and wrapped it around the shivering shoulders of the eldest girl. "You're safe now," he said softly. "No one will hurt you." He led them away from the square, three sisters with tear-streaked faces, leaving behind the place that had almost destroyed them. That night, they camped by a river. Samuel gave them bread and water, then built a fire to keep them warm. The youngest, Leela, looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Are you going to sell us too?" she whispered. Samuel froze. "No," he said gently. "I don't buy people, I save them." The oldest, Miriam, spoke next, her voice trembling. "Why would you help us? You don't even know us." He looked into the fire and sighed. "Because once, someone saved me too." The flames crackled, and Samuel began to tell them his story, how years ago, when his family was starving after a great drought, a stranger had taken him in, fed him, and treated him like a son. That man's kindness had changed the course of his life forever. "He taught me something I never forgot," Samuel said, "that the greatest wealth a man can have is compassion." The sisters listened silently. For the first time in years, they felt safe enough to sleep. The stars glowed above them, and the world finally seemed kind again. By morning, Samuel had made up his mind. He would take them to his home, a large farm on the outskirts of a small town. His three sons worked the land with him, and though they were good men, they had grown bitter watching the cruelty of the world. Samuel hoped that maybe these girls, with their courage and pain, could bring warmth back into their hearts. When they arrived at the farm, Samuel's wife, Ruth, came out to greet them. She was kind but cautious. "Who are these girls?" she asked softly. "They're our guests," Samuel replied. "And from now on, they're part of our family." Ruth understood without another word. She embraced each of the girls, fed them, and gave them clothes. For weeks, the sisters worked around the farm, cooking, cleaning, helping in the fields. Slowly, they began to smile again. Leela, the youngest, loved the animals. Miriam, the eldest, was quiet and thoughtful. The middle sister, Hannah, had a laugh that could make the sun rise faster. Samuel's 3 sons watched all this from afar. At first, they saw the girls as strangers. But as time passed, something changed. The eldest son, David, was drawn to Miriam's calm strength. She reminded him of his late mother's gentleness. The second son, Eli, loved how Hannah could bring laughter even in hard times. And the youngest, Jonah, found himself protecting Leela like a guardian, until protection turned into something deeper. One evening, Samuel found his sons sitting by the fire, talking in hushed tones. He smiled, knowing what was in their hearts. "You love them, don't you?" he said. They looked at him, embarrassed, but couldn't deny it. Samuel nodded. "Then marry them. But not out of pity. Marry them because you want to build a life with them. Because you see their strength, not their sorrow." And so it was. A small ceremony was held under the old oak tree on the hill, where the wind carried the scent of wildflowers. There were no fancy clothes, no gold rings, only love, simple and pure. Miriam married David, Hannah married Eli, and Leela married Jonah. Samuel and Ruth watched with tears of joy, knowing their family had just grown in the most unexpected way. Years passed, the farm flourished, laughter filled the air, and the sisters became the heart of the household. They bore children, worked the fields, and sang songs while the sun went down behind the hills. What once had been a tale of despair became a story of redemption, proof that love can grow even from the ashes of cruelty. But one day, a familiar figure appeared at the gate, the girl's father. His beard was longer, his body thinner, his eyes hollow. He fell to his knees before Samuel. "I came to beg forgiveness," he said, weeping. "I was blinded by hunger. I have carried the weight of my sin every day." Samuel looked at him quietly. Miriam and her sisters stood behind him, their hearts torn. It would have been easy to hate him, the man who tried to sell them to strangers. But instead, Miriam stepped forward. "Father," she said softly, "we forgive you." The old man broke down in tears. "You shouldn't," he cried. "I don't deserve it." "Maybe not," Miriam replied, "but forgiveness isn't something you earn. It's something we choose." Samuel placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "Stay with us," he said. "Let your last years be in peace. What's done is done." The father wept again, overwhelmed by the kindness he could not understand. He stayed on the farm, helping where he could, and slowly found redemption in the laughter of his grandchildren, the same grandchildren he had almost never known. Answer: what began as an act of cruelty became a story of grace. The man who once sold his daughters found forgiveness. The girls who were once broken found love. And the man who saved them, Samuel, found that compassion can rebuild what the world destroys. Many years later, when Samuel grew old and frail, he sat under the same oak tree where the 3 weddings had taken place. His sons and daughters surrounded him, their children playing in the grass. He smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "I once thought wealth was in the land," he said softly. "But now I know, true wealth is here, in the people we save." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold, Samuel took Ruth's hand and whispered, "We did well, didn't we?" She smiled through her tears. "Yes," she said, "we did." And that night, as the stars shone bright above the peaceful farm, the story of Samuel and the 3 sisters became a legend told by the fireside for generations to come, a reminder that even in a world filled with pain, one act of kindness can change everything. Because sometimes, love doesn't just save lives. It redeems souls. This was Heart of the Guardians. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes that compassion still matters. Subscribe for more true and timeless tales that awaken the guardian within us all.